Good morning, afternoon, evening, gamers. So I was just watching Asmongold do this very video, and I really liked what he had to say, and I think what he has to say is more or less the same as what most people generally how they feel about the modern world we live in and the way it's represented in movies now and in franchises. So let's go to here. This is a gentleman who produces this video. So go and watch the original. And show him some love.
And since Star Wars Celebration, there has been a disturbance in the balance of pop culture, where millions of fans groaned in unison as Disney and Lucasfilm announced that Rey would be brought back in a new movie. Some may have been hyped, while many others saw this announcement as Disney unwilling to learn from their past failures, as Hollywood keeps pushing what fans reject, and it begs the question, why does nobody seem to like these identity politically driven or woke characters? Let's talk about it.
I don't think people like them because the their characters are just not likable. They don't really have any depth. They don't they and they're built upon a checklist of things. It is the person this, is the person that, and usually these traits are something that exist in our world, not necessarily the the Star Wars universe, which is what you came to see. But now you're watching you're watching a program, a film, a TV series with characters having problems that exist in your world, but you watch programs, you watch TV, you watch films to get away from all of that. I think that's why people don't like it.
What rubs many the wrong way about Rey isn't that she's a woman, although I'm sure there are those out there who hate her simply for that, but I'm not
Possible.
one of them. The real reason why I particularly dislike the character and this announcement of her making a new Jedi Order is that Rey is essentially assuming the role that Luke should have had instead. Unfortunately, Disney made Luke into a bumbling hobo who drinks alien milk and tries to kill his nephew, and to really put the nail in the coffin, they also killed.
To be fair, I haven't seen the Skywalker film. I just after the last few Star Wars films, I just didn't want to. I don't want to invest in this whole idea of just changing how people how how the narrative of people's story arc is going, and then just completely 180 it for no other reason than you want to insert something that not most people who came to see it want. I I just don't want to engage in that. I just don't. If if you set characters up from the beginning, which they did with Star Wars, and then you just start doing these weird plots or character assassinations, people will see that and they'll be like, why? Like, no, I don't like this. But then they have this audacity to be like, oh, why does nobody like this? Yeah.
Off Luke as well. All the expanded universe lore surrounding Luke could now, in retrospect, not be used since the legacy of the character was finished. But the sad truth is that Lucasfilm and Disney found a way to remove Luke from the story and replace his legacy with a younger character instead. When it comes to a lot of new age media, there's been quite a few characters created that could be considered self inserts of their creators. A good example of this is Mariko Tamaki, who's the author of the YA graphic novel I Am Not Starfire, where the beautiful supermodel Starfire has a fat daughter that looks more like the Penguin than being related to Starfire herself. Her daughter, whose name is Mandy, also looks strikingly similar to her creator, which many, as you'd expect, have pointed out. Then of course you have Velma and Mindy Kaling, which I don't need to explain. Of course, self-inserts are nothing new when it comes to media.
I mean, again, it's like I don't like Asmongold. I don't have a problem with that. Representing different types of people who look a different way is fair enough, but but rather than make it its own thing, you have to tie it in with other established characters. Look at the Little Mermaid. So you have The Little Mermaid is a story by Hans Christian Andersen. It's an established story. It's been a story that's been more or less the same for hundreds of years. All of a sudden, they took this fairly established character and made her black. And then everybody assumed that it's because she's black. No. No, it's because it doesn't make any sense. If you created a separate story with a black mermaid, I I think people would watch it. And if you make her character actually interesting, like that above and beyond is paramount. Make the characters good. People won't care. Black, white, Asian, purple skin. It won't matter if they are interesting and they grab you and they grab your imagination. They're going to be a favourite of fans. But just changing an established character and riding off of the back of that, people are going to be like, well, hang on a minute. What's going on? Why? Why did you do this? And if it if it was the other way around, if you took another established character like I don't know, Blade, the vampire hunter, Wesley Snipes, and generally that character is is a black character, and then you made them white for no particular reason. It's the same thing. I'm still gonna be like, and I think most people would be like, well, no, like why? And often the reason is not really explained, and is not explained because often there is no good reason. There's somebody who has this weird mindset that wants to insert it into this work of fiction that they're creating, and that is what people don't like.
As it's likely impossible for a creator to not in some way insert parts of themselves into the very
True.
characters they create. A good example of this would be Peter Parker, as Spider-Man looks a lot like one of his creators, Steve Ditko. But the difference between someone like Peter and Mandy is that Peter actually became something that stood the test of time and grew and expanded and built their own legacy. Where likely until I mentioned Mandy in this video, you probably haven't even thought of or knew that character even existed. To swing back to Star Wars again, Rey feels like a self-insert, but in the worst way possible. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Rey was a self-insert of Star Wars' biggest villain herself, Kathleen Kennedy. A woman who's so hated by the fan base that even during Star Wars Celebration, many didn't clap or woo her as she went on stage.
Of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy!
because the damage she has done to the brand and Disney at large at this point is stained by her diluted touch. Rey is a terrible self-insert character because she doesn't add nothing to the story she's in. She is simply Luke Skywalker but a woman, but without any of the problems.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I did watch this one with the Ray character. Um and it, she wasn't a terrible actress. Like I didn't mind her in that way, but throughout the film you're just like, oh, she's just naturally good at everything. Like she didn't really seem to struggle. It's just like, oh, okay, uh, she's great at everything, and it just made her character so one dimensional. It's just so you just look and you go, is this all there is? Like any any hopes that she was going to be this complex and deep character. She just kind of wasn't. I think that's what people didn't like. Yeah, sure, some people, like liked Luke more than they liked the idea of a female Luke. Sure, like I mean, there are some people that no matter what you do, that they're not going to like it because they like they like one type of character and they don't want it changed. There's not a lot you can do with those people. They're never going to be happy. But generally, most people, if you'd made Ray just a bit more complex and a bit deeper with, made her so that she had like struggles and like she wasn't just magically good with the force that she'd only known for like 5 minutes. I think it would have gone over better with people. Maybe I didn't mind it, but I was a bit like, she's not kind of that interesting. I actually found the stormtrooper. I forget what his name was. The stormtrooper dude who watched his fellow comrades just massacre a load of people, and he's kind of thinking, ooh, hang on a minute, like which side am I on? Like this doesn't this doesn't seem very good. And then he kind of defects. I actually found him a little more interesting than Ray. He's got this kind of like, okay, am I bad? Like, am I on the wrong team? I thought he was much more interesting, and I was hoping that they were gonna do something more with his character. That didn't happen, as far as I know. Like I said, I've kind of fallen off the whole Star Wars kind of thing because there's just a lot in it. You start watching it and you go, oh, okay, so it's a checklist of, you know, it is a character a woman, is there sexuality prevalent? That's got to be at the forefront. We've got to have that. Have we got people in wheelchairs? Have we got black people? Just this whole thing. Have we got the rainbow community like represented? And so then all of these things start overwriting any interest you had in the characters themselves. I don't generally think that anybody's going to care that you've got a gay woman. Like, but if that's the only interesting thing about that character, what do you do with that? Because Not everybody is going to relate to being a woman or being gay, for instance. But if you can make the character, appealing to, to most people, regardless of, your sexual identity, which shouldn't really be anything unless maybe it's like a James Bond film or something, or you have a love scene, then maybe it's kind of prevalent. But it has to be relevant to the plot and to the story. Just having somebody that's straight off the bat like, yeah, I'm a badass female and I'm gay. Well, okay, that's great, but that doesn't really make you interesting. I think that's generally how most people feel. It's not entertaining. Anyway, let's go.
Or weaknesses. Instead, she's capable of doing anything and everything herself,
Yeah,
even breaking
like
out of prison in Force Awakens on her own, even though she's only known how to use the Force for maybe 5 minutes at this point. Rey is the ultimate bad character because of this, and I honestly feel bad for Daisy Ridley because she's just
yeah,
doing what she's told by the writers, directors.
yeah. It's not that actress. It's got nothing to do with that actress. The actress's job is to play the character that you know is in the script, and she does play the character as best as she can. She has no real control over the over the script, which is a lot of the problem. You can't. It's not about her, about Daisy the actress. I have no issue with Daisy the actress. I thought she played it as well as she could, and it wasn't a terrible film. There was no real depth, or I didn't feel any kind of way for her. That's that's the thing. Whether it's music or whether it's films or whether it's a TV show, if a character or music doesn't make you feel some kind of way, then you've lost your audience. That is essentially it. We we watch these programs, we watch these films for escapism, to escape our reality. So when we then start seeing our reality in the thing, in the TV series or the film that we're trying to get away from, already that's not going to go over well. And then when you have characters that are just not, that they don't make you feel something for them, they're just they're forgettable. And if you're going to write a forgettable character, well, why bother? Why should people bother going to see it? But not Daisy's fault. She's just an actress. She's doing the best she can with the material that she's got, which has been a lot of film stars, movie stars in a lot of films. We've seen really, really good really, really good actors that we know can act, superbly. But we've seen them in a film, unfortunately, where the script is not great, and you see them do the best that they can, and even they can't save it.
And producers who employ her. There was something there in Awakens, a glimmer that she could have been a great
Sure,
character, but this potential
sure.
was sadly wasted. And then it was exemplified when she was not only assuming the role that was originally Luke's, she also took his last name too. Rey and her self inserted creator Kathleen Kennedy are the worst thing to happen to Star Wars since its creation. Many could argue that the reason why fans are so against Rey is because she's a new character and nobody wants new stuff, they just want what they liked before. But this is clearly
I, maybe that's true to to some degree, that there are always going to be those people. It's like, I yeah, I liked Darth Vader. I liked, Han Solo. I liked Leia. I liked the original cast. And all this other stuff, I don't like it because it's new and it frightens me. There are going to be those people. There's always going to be those people. But generally, I think people just want to be entertained. That they want a good story with characters that they can feel something for. Because again, if if a movie, TV series, music doesn't make you feel some kind of way, you've lost the audience.
Not true, since we have had plenty of characters made in the years before and
I don't know
since
who
that
she is.
disprove this. Starkiller, for example, was a character people really liked, and The Force Unleashed, when it came out, became the best selling Star Wars game ever at the time, even outpacing KOTOR. Grogu is another great addition, and so is Din Djarin, but people clearly don't like when they're sold something as one thing but get subverted into experiencing something that they don't want. The Mandalorian recently has largely replaced Din and Grogu with Bo-Katan, and even the producers of the show say anyone can now be the Mandalorian.
We've been on the journey of the show, and now that we're at this point, is that what does that title mean? And I think now with Bo possessing the dark saber, I know that there was a lot of expectations that might have shifted, both in terms of what it meant for Din Djarin, but also for Bo, and what does it mean? Who is the Mandalorian right at this point? And so I think it could be anyone, and I think that's what they're trying to define in many ways, is what does that mean to be Mandalorian?
But again, you most people, when the show started, they got to know this character. They liked this character, and again, he has these struggles, he has these setbacks. He's very mysterious. Like, you don't shut up, phone. You don't know. You don't know too much about him. He kind of unfolds over time. There's little Grogu. So they've set up this pattern, and you're getting into it, and then suddenly it's kind of like, okay, we're gonna 180 for no particular reason. And then when you've had, and here's the thing, like, I used I used to watch movies, and they had these strong, badass female characters in the lead. Ripley in Aliens. You had Wonder Woman. I mean, Gal Gadot is probably my favorite Wonder Woman ever. I love that film. She is the quin. She is the best version of Wonder Woman. I know there was another actress that did Wonder Woman. I didn't particularly see that film, so and if people like that, and I'm sure she did a good job, but for me, Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman was just a superb movie, and it was a good movie because I felt something for her. She was, she had a much deeper character arc. She was interesting. But however, I've seen a lot of films where they've just inserted somebody into a film, and you start getting this kind of feeling. You're watching the film and you're like, uh oh, okay, why is this why does this film have all females in it? Charlie's Angels, the original one, was a really good film. Then they made a remake, and it wasn't very good because the characters just they were coming across with. You had this suspicion when you were watching it that, like, what is this film? What is this film about? Why does it exist? Why was it made? And you start to get this feeling that you're being you're being talked down to. You're being that they're trying to insert their opinion onto you, and immediately you start losing most people because they're like, I don't want that. I just want a movie to be fun. I want it to be enjoyable. I want it to take me out of my problems, like out of out of that guy harassing me at the office, or my girlfriend, just doing my head in, just general life situations, life stuff. So you go and you watch things. And to be honest, I haven't watched any of the modern episodes of Mandalorian. It got to a point where I was quite happy, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop there for now. So I don't know too much about this character, about this lady here. If she's interesting, and not just inserted because, okay, well, we've got to have females on the screen, and they've got to be this and they've got to be that. Again, going back to this checklist thing. If she's interesting and you can make me feel some kind of way about her, she's interesting. I I would probably like her, and most people will. But you're always playing a dangerous game when you start doing one thing and then you completely 180 and start doing something else. People start getting suspicious. People are like, "Why? What are you what are you doing? What is it that what expectations are you subverting or trying to subvert? What message are you trying to put across?" I know from bitter experience that people do not like being talked to, being spoken down to, particularly when they've switched on to be entertained. There's a time and a place for everything. I think was it Beyonce found that out recently. She started giving people a lecture at a halftime. I don't know much about it, so I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments below. I heard a little bit about it, and I just thought, I don't want to get into it, and I don't want to get into a lot of it. I don't want to get into this males versus females, and we're people, and we're not perfect. We have flaws, which is fine. But I don't want to get into this men versus women, women versus men. It's stupid. Yes, there are differences between men and women. Women think very differently and to men, and men think very differently. There are physical differences, which is the reason why we have men and women. It's a biological thing. Women, women are very good at lots of things. Men are good at lots of things, and when you put the two together, it creates this dynamic that builds on the other's weaknesses. That's kind of how it's supposed to work. But lately, in this modern day, we're just spending more time, it seems, complaining than just fixing things. That's my personal opinion. Perhaps I'm wrong, but that's just kind of the way I see it. But yeah, if you go for entertainment and you start being, given a moral lesson, depending on the way you do it. I mean, you can have that in a story, and people are like, oh, okay, but you have to you have to do it in a way that isn't. It's a difficult thing to explain.
And I think that's what they're trying to define in many ways is what does that mean to be
Mm.
Mandalorian?
We want our Space Dad and Goblin Son story, and even though the show was marketed as such, once you watch it, the duo are sidelined for other characters. It's not even that Bo is a bad character, it's just that no one is watching the
Right.
show for her when we've been invested in Din and Grogu. If I can put this into an analogy for you, switching out Bo for the duo is like going to a steakhouse and having the advertisements promoted as a place for barbecued beef. But when you enter, the
Right.
menu actually has no steak on it, and instead everything is replaced with fish.
Ew.
And then you're being called an idiot or an anti fish eater because you went to the steakhouse expecting steak. But now everyone who works there hates you because you don't want what they're selling, and that's how all of this feels. We wanted steak and potatoes, but you're feeding us halibut and soy milk. The fan
That's that's a pretty good analogy. Yeah, like it yeah, if I go to a Mexican place for a burrito, I love burritos. Not very easy to get in my town. There is a Taco Bell now, but they're not they're not that great. The burritos are very small and there's not a lot in them. But then price to they're not very expensive. But I mean, once they start putting the price up, and it's still the same lack of like content, and it's probably going to be more of an issue. But yeah, going to a Mexican diner for a burrito, and instead there's, I don't know, a salad bar and only salad. I'm gonna be kind of like, wait, what? Uh, this is not what this is not what I wanted. Where's the where's the Mexican food? It's a good analogy, and people don't like that bait and switch. They just don't. It's never gonna go down well with people.
base has every right to be disappointed about this kind of stuff. It's not to say that you can't have good characters that are people of color or women, as one
Nope.
of my favorite characters of the past decade and then some is Agent 355 from Y the Last Man. She's an incredibly badass special agent who's
Hold that thought.
Mic off. Mic on.
Sorry about that. I'm drinking, a fair amount of water at the moment, just trying to do a little better. I drink far too much coffee and not really much else, so just trying to take in water. But as you know, when you start drinking a lot of water, a lot more bathroom breaks.
sole purpose is to protect the last remaining man on Earth. Her determination and willingness to see her mission through is not only filled with comedy, but a horrible tragedy as well. 355 is an amazing character who's also black and a woman, and she's also believable and fits perfectly into the world of Y the Last Man. Another character I really love is from a comic called Punk Rock Jesus, where a company revives Jesus through strands of DNA and makes a reality show out of the second coming of Christ for television ratings. This second Jesus is protected by a capable and deeply troubled man named Thomas McKeel. Thomas is a badass bodyguard whose nickname is the Cemetery because of all the crosses on his back he has tattooed signifying all the people he's killed. Punk Rock Jesus is also just a damn fine limited series, and I strongly recommend it if you haven't read it. But the point stands that good original characters do still exist out there in the wild.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of those comics. I don't read or consume a lot of comics. I would like to, but it's just there's only so many hours in a day, so you know. But I don't know them. But I mean, they're interesting at least ideas. So I mean, if you've got a good idea, that's a good starting point.
wider world, but unfortunately, when it comes to mainstream companies like Marvel, for example, they can't help but keep pushing these terrible woke ideas instead. A good example of this is Deadpool, who in a recent issue has begun dating Valentine Vuong, an assassin who was originally an enemy of Wade's. While this all may seem fine, the more I dug in, the more obvious and self-inserting it became. You see, it would be one thing to announce that Deadpool has a new girlfriend, except whenever you read an article about this, the selling point is that this new character is non-binary. And I had a creeping suspicion, so of course I dived in deeper, and the writer of this Deadpool series is Alyssa Wong, who of course is also non-binary. Meaning this series...
Yeah. And that's kind of that's kind of a problem. I mean, I think this is going to happen to some degree, and I guess there's a need for the gay community to want to be represented, and I mean that's okay. Like I don't think anybody's going to care about that. But you've got to make the characters deeper than their sexuality. There's got to be something that we relate to them through.
is just a fanfic where the writer has self-inserted a non-binary Vietnamese character who is very specifically just like their creator and wrote it so that they can bang Deadpool. It's Tumblr levels of cringe, but this is how things are now. Thankfully, there has been good characters that are also diverse, but unfortunately, I do wish there were more that were given proper respect and real characterization. Aya and Bayek from Assassin's Creed are some of my favorite characters in that franchise, and they are both not only diverse, but extremely integral to their franchise, and fans love them. Another miss by the modern comics industry was Jonathan Kent, who became the new Superman. Except his only defining characteristic wasn't his heroism, legacy, or villains, but simply that he was bisexual. And having the new Superman be bi...
Yeah, that's not enough. That's literally not enough. And all it says to most people is, okay, you just wanted to have a gay Superman. Alright, okay, fine. But what else is there? What defines him other than who he chooses to sleep with, be with, spend his time with? What else is there? What are his struggles? What are his demons? How does he contribute to the world? These are, these round out a character, flaws. But no, just being gay, that's not enough. Even Superman.
I did little in the long run with the series being cancelled because, like many of these woke characters, their identities are surface level at best.
Yeah.
And I know some people will say that it's odd that I'm against gay Superman or self-insert non-binary Deadpool love interest, but I'm totally fine with Peter Parker looking like Steve Ditko. Why Peter Parker works where so many of these woke failures don't is because when it comes to characters like Spider-Man, he's so much more than just his sexuality or skin color. Peter is a young man whose life gets changed by the spider bite. He loses his uncle because of his own hubris. And while he has the riz of a literal god, Peter also suffers immensely, but never lets it bring him down and inspires those around him. When I think
And he never picks on other people or makes it all about them. I also see with a lot of these badass boss female characters is that they go around trashing their male counterparts. Maybe that there are. I'm absolutely certain that there are probably some male characters that have been written that way as well, that are just bashing women. But the point is the same, whether it's males bashing females, females bashing males. Again, it's the same problem. It's not necessary, and it just doesn't make you a very good character. It doesn't add anything to the story.
Think of someone like Peter, I think of his characteristics as heroic, selfless, loving, and strong. He's a character many people can see themselves in regardless of gender, skin color, or whatever else. It's the same with Agent 355. I think of her as adaptive, strong willed, and incredibly badass. Her being black or a woman doesn't matter
No.
because at her core, she's a strong character. But when I look at Jonathan Kent, the only quality he has is that he's bisexual.
Yeah.
That's all any of these new age characters are now. They are simply created for diversity checkpoints so websites will write articles about them.
Yes. The checkpoint. You know, and that's what people don't like. It's not interesting. Yes, you can have people. Yes, you can have women. Yes, you can have gay people. Yes, you can have people in wheelchairs. Like, you can represent every facet of society, but do it in a way that is interesting, that people will gravitate towards, so that they no longer see or are as concerned about what the person's gender, color, sexuality, religion is. They relate to that character and they enjoy that that character, or that character makes them feel a certain way, will win out. We won't care about the other stuff. It's how do you make me feel? How integrated in with the story are you? How interesting are you? And do you entertain me? Because that's the biggest problem. People just want to be entertained. That they don't want to be. They don't go on these TV shows and film and go and watch films to always have some sort of moral lesson. They don't always want that. And again, you can do it, but how you do it, you have to be very careful, because otherwise, people will just turn off. And once you've lost the audience, you're not making any you're not making any money. You're not, and the show's going to get cancelled, which we see over and over again. Um, and I have a suspicion that probably, and I have no way to verify this. I've seen a couple of gay people on YouTube videos come out and say, actually, we don't like this either. Like, it's crap. Like, we don't like it. And I do wonder how many of the gay community actually look at this and go, no, this, no, this isn't enjoyable. Yes, you're including us, but in the wrong ways. You know? I wonder. I wonder what they actually think about some of this.
But the reality is that these controversies usually never translate to true long standing sales, and it proves that consumers want their characters to be defined more besides what's in their pants or whose pants they want in. Speaking of
Yes.
Spider Man, one of the newer characters added to the mythos is the alternate universe version of Miles Morales' sister. Her name is Bobby Morales, and her superhero name is Spider Smasher. And she looks like a cheap knockoff of
Okay.
an Attack on Titan character with the overused half-shaved haircut. Then there's
Right.
Spider-Boy, whose real name is Bailey, and apparently has the exact same origin story as the Sentry, who's Marvel's version of Superman, basically. They're not even trying anymore. However, if
Mm,
you want an example of a character that became a breakout success and is fairly recent, we can look at Dr. Aphra, who first appeared in the Darth Vader comic book series. Aphra is a morally ambiguous character that kills and manipulates people and is also a woman of color and meets all of those sexual identity nonsense things every company is so crazy about. But while Aphra does tick certain ideological boxes, she managed to have her own comic book series and became a character that shined even when put beside icons like Darth Vader. So it's not that
So already I don't know her character. Again, I don't really read I don't read as many comics as I would like to. But she sounds interesting. She sounds more interesting than, you know, what we've had so far. And if she's doing well, then that tells you something, that other people find her character interesting, that she has depth to her. You know, that there isn't always this kind of all good, all bad. Because often some people, and generally an interesting character, is somebody who's somewhere in between. We have this, and I think movies certainly play a part in this. They try to have this good, bad, and that's okay. But when you start to get these characters that kind of blur those lines and are kind of a mixture of both, it it, it just makes that character more fleshed out, more interesting. Like, what are they going to do next? Are they going to help, or are they going to hinder? What are they going to do? When you just know that somebody's going to do the right thing or the wrong thing, it can get a little boring. It can get a little stale.
people don't like new characters or those of color and so on. They just
No.
want, well, they just want well written characters that are complex. I understand
Yes.
that writers want to diversify their characters, but it becomes
Sure.
increasingly agenda driven and eye rolling when almost every prominent character is gay. Look, I
Mm.
understand that gay people need representation, but we went from a little bit of representation to the point where characters
Yeah. It's yeah. I understand that gay people want representation. Of course, if we truly want an inclusive world and everybody to be equal, yes, of course. But it's done so ham-fisted. It's just it's so over the top, and people see it and the way that it's implemented, and they push back on it. They're like, it's too much. You're going too far the other way. And again, if that's the only interesting thing about your character is their sexuality, or who they're trying to get with, well, it, it it's not really gonna be, it's gonna be interesting for about 5 minutes, and then you're kind of like, well, okay, that's cool, but what else? What else is there? It it's not. Again, people are jumping on this bandwagon of, oh, if you don't like these movies, TV shows, it's because you're, you know, it's because you're this or you're that. You don't like gay people. You don't like strong women. No, no. What we don't like is having to sit through some kind of moral lesson every time, and to have these subjects, these checklists, ruin the movie because often they're done in such a way that it often doesn't really make any sense, or it makes the the program boring, or they change somebody that was a certain way to another way just because they want to put out some sort of agenda. It's done often in the wrong way. You can have representation, you can have interesting characters, but how you write them and how you deal with the topics, you've got to have more finesse. You've got to have more depth and not just be sloppy and just slap on all these labels and we're done. Like, oh, okay, we've got a black person, cool. We've got the gay person, check. Female, yep, check. Yep. Everybody's gay, bisexual, whatever, check. Have we got disabled people? Right, no, put them in. In fact, make the main character, who's supposed to be a superhero, make them black, female, gay, in a wheelchair for some reason. Obviously, I'm going over the top, but you get my point. So you've got all of this, right? Okay, what are they fighting for? What's their personality? What's their morals? What are their strengths, weaknesses? Who are they as a person? What are okay. There's none of that. They're just black, female, gay, and in a wheelchair. Nope, not interested. Not interested, because it's just shallow. It's shallow, and it's just some sort of agenda that you've put out there. It's not good enough, basically.
Are being retconned into having their sexuality changed for pandering reasons. Why else would DC Comics suddenly say one of their Robins is gay or John Kent? It's not being done in order to flesh the character out. It's simply written that way so places like CBR will write an article. And Twitter people will virtually pat the creators on the back while not spending a dime supporting these ideas. Only to complain that people hate gay characters until they make more gay characters, and then they don't support those either, and the cycle of lunacy continues. Honestly, one of the best additions to Star Wars in years was Gina Carano's Cara Dune, who was supposed to get her own spin-off show. But the absurdity that Disney would cancel an actual strong female role model over politics.
I was actually really interested. I was really angry about this. She was a great character. From the get go, she was interesting. And it seemed like she was only going to get more interesting. And a spin-off show, I would totally have been interested in that. And then because she wouldn't bend the knee for some reason, or she had her own opinion, which again seems to be another problem. You can't have your own opinion about something, and it not be turned into this. Either you're in this camp or you're in that camp. If you're somewhere in the middle, which I often find myself, I agree with some of what they're saying. I agree with some of what they're saying, but also both are just talking a load of rubbish as well. This pendulum thing that goes on where we just swing from one to the other wildly. And because she wouldn't do that, because she wouldn't capitulate, because she wouldn't bend the knee, and she wouldn't give up on what her opinion was, because you're allowed to have an opinion, and people don't have to agree. But they just kind of cancelled her, and yet she was probably one of the more promising, interesting characters coming out of The Mandalorian, and would have I think if she'd have been allowed to have her own show, and they'd have gone, into her character and her strengths and her weaknesses, it could have been a great show, and I think people would have watched it completely. People would have watched it and would have enjoyed it, but we'll never know because this weird politics that's going on that doesn't really always need to be in entertainment. It's such a shame.
Politics is so very much the perfect encapsulation of our current world. You can't just have a character be gay, they have to also align exactly how you want them when it comes to your politics and views as well. Having a strong female character isn't enough if that woman doesn't bend the knee or parrots all the talking points too. It's because of this very clear bias that many fans are disillusioned and tired of many things. The burnout of having the things we love being ruined or paraded for woke points is why I do what I do. There needs to be a middle ground where we can have
Yes.
representation, but it
Yes.
shouldn't come at the cost of deplatforming others.
Yes. Yeah. If if you take anything away from this video, let's have a middle ground where we can come together and have representation, and we can have conversations and we can have discussions without it just turning into a mess. Because Disney is not winning. They're making shows and they're making shows and they're making shows, and nobody's watching them because they don't enjoy them. You had the chance with a potentially great character, but because the actress, and again, it was the actress. The actress is their actress or actor. Apparently, you have to call them all actors now. Like, I, again, just stupidness. You have an actress who is doing her best to interpret the script and the character, and was seemingly doing a good job, and fans were warming to the character. Fans were actually like, oh, okay, oh, cool, actually an interesting character, somebody that we can get into the meat and the bones of, like, you know, their struggles, and they actually be interesting. But no, no, because the actress didn't capitulate for some reason. Nope, no, you know, we're not doing it. We're just gonna cancel her, and it's so stupid. We've got to have a middle ground because it's getting really stupid. And the problem is that there's starting to become a backlash against the gay community, which is not what we want. It's not what anybody should want. You think you're doing good, you think you're representing the gay community, or as I like to call them, the rainbow community. I think it just sounds interesting. And makes, you know, I just like it. But if that offends you, which probably does, okay, okay. But yeah, we've got to find a middle ground, because this backlash against gay people, that's not helpful, and people are starting to, over the years, as far as I can tell, and I've watched a lot of movies, I've watched a lot of TV shows that a lot of people, born 5 minutes ago, don't know about. They don't know about, and they have no history with, because I'm older, right? So I've watched a lot of movies, and I've seen the world slowly getting better, and it has got better. Has it been slow? Yes. Yeah, it's been slow. Humans can be slow to change for many different reasons. Political, um, the religion doesn't always help. It tends to hold people back sometimes. Um, Technological reasons, but we have slowly, the world has been getting better, not for everybody, and I'm not saying it's perfect, not by a long shot. We still have a long way to go, but we were slowly getting there. Women have now all of the rights, as far as I can tell. I mean, there are a few issues, and we can fix them, but complaining about them won't fix them. We can do better, and we were doing better. And it's the same with gay people. I think generally nobody cares. Like, there are going to be those people out there. There's always going to be those people, unfortunately, for some reason. They will die out, and then new people will be born who, who don't necessarily care. But they will care when this idea of inclusiveness, which sounds like a good idea but is not actually happening, because now one group is favoured, or a couple of groups are favoured, and now another group isn't favoured. That's not how that works. Like, inclusiveness is inclusiveness. It's everybody, and we're not getting that. But the world was getting better, and I feel like it's now going backwards. And there's starting to become a backlash against the gay community, where before people were like, okay, you do you live your life the way you want to. And now it's kind of like, well, I can't like this community because they're always just messing up our TV shows and our films, and they're always just changing stuff, and everybody's got to be this or that or the other, and they're not even interesting. We don't like this, and they're always coming at us. I mean, the Harry Potter game. I guarantee you, all the anger and the pushback from people bullying people for playing a video game. I mean, just think about that. People were bullying other people for playing a video game. Do you honestly think that helps the gay community and gay causes? Honestly, do you? Because I think it probably did more to harm the gay community than it did to help them. And let me be very clear, that's not good. That is not good at all. That's not inclusiveness. That is not equality. You're creating hatred and pushback and resentment and frustration where you didn't necessarily need to.
If fans are so against characters of color, then why was everyone stoked when Ahmed Best played a Jedi Master in Mando? Why did no one complain or have an issue when Kang was announced to be played by Jonathan Majors? Or why did Creed 3 make over $250 million on a franchise that primarily started with a straight white man as its lead character? The difference is that when it comes to characters like Creed, he doesn't replace Rocky but instead respects and honors the legacy. Creed, in a lot of ways, is the opposite of Rey. He forged his own place in that franchise and built a story that honors what came before without ruining the original movies. Rey is now in the unfortunate, unique position.
Yeah, I haven't seen Creed. I like boxing, but I'm not that into it. I've seen maybe one or two of the Rocky movies, but again, they were okay. But I do know that a lot of people liked that film. Again, it's such a weak argument. It's not about the color of the actor's skin. It's not about the actor's gender, or even who they choose to sleep with. that's just being used as an excuse. It's got nothing to do with any. There will be those people. There will be racists. There will be people who don't like gay people, probably because they've been taught that. I don't believe that's something that most human beings are born with. People are taught to hate. Sadly, but generally, most people don't care about that. We just want this character to be good, to be interesting, to have depth and character, and not just everything they're good at. And I've seen male characters that were badly written, and they were just like, I'm good at this. It's the same thing. It's not about the gender. If you can just pick up a lightsaber and just use the force, just like that, with no struggle, with no kind of, you know, without. People like to see a character start from the ground up. It's like when you're in a video game, you start at like level 1. You're not strong. You're gonna die a lot. You don't have any good weapons. You don't have a team behind you or friends. You've got nothing. You start with nothing, and then you start to build up your character. You get stronger. You progress. You get better tools. Weapons, and you get characters that are equally good, that are going to help you and assist you, and you rise up to become this iconic character, which people start to. And maybe you've got flaws, you've got weaknesses, you've got strengths, you've got something specific that you're doing. Maybe you're leaning more towards doing bad things or doing good things, but you've got that kind of moral kind of grey area. Interesting. And people can start to relate to your struggle. That's interesting. Male or female, doesn't matter. So you've just got to write good characters. That's all it really comes down to, but it's not. It's just, often or not, it just feels like it's lazy, and it's just doing that checklist. And that's why people don't like it.
To appropriate and transform all of Luke's expanded history and make it her own. That doesn't make Rey a good character, it makes her an imposter that didn't earn what she has. Ultimately, the reason why people don't like woke characters is because they don't offer anything actually unique. They are simply checklists so modern creators can fail upwards into ruining more stuff they should have no part in. This is why The Acolyte so far has people on edge when one of their lead actors says things like Star Wars is very patriarchal. Which makes you question if the actress in question, whose name is Jodie Turner-Smith, even knows what she's talking about. She goes on to say, quote, "My character, she's a powerful leader. She's a powerful leader in a very woman-centered world, which I was very excited to kind of be in that because I feel like Star Wars is very patriarchal. So it was kind of cool to have this sort of woman-centered figure," end quote. Also, it's really hard for me to say patriarchal. I can't say it. Moving on. Either Jodie Turner-Smith is blind or hasn't seen any of Star Wars in the last year. Since movies like Rogue One starred a woman, and there's an entire sequel trilogy where everyone kisses the toes of the female characters constantly. If anything, Star Wars from a movie or TV sense in the last 10 years is anything but, oh god, patriarchal, I can't say it. If anything, Star Wars from a movie or TV sense in the last 10 years is anything but patriarchal. I think a more fitting word would be cucked, but what do I know? I only actually watch these things and make videos on the internet about them. It does seem that the nonsense of today's world will not end anytime soon, but I have a creeping suspicion that the inevitable Episode 10 of Star Wars will not do as well as Disney hopes. And these lazy self-inserts like Mandy, non-binary Deadpool love interest, or half-shaved haircut Spider-Person will have as much impact as the greats they so desperately cling on to. Because in the end, the ideology and color of someone is just that, it's skin deep. No one race or group is inherently evil or lesser simply due to the pigment of their skin, and each person should be judged based on their own character instead. But when your character's defining traits are their body fat index being high or what they're attracted to, it's no wonder these ideas are dead on arrival. So reject the modern nonsense of today and embrace real, actual well-written media. Go read Punk Rock Jesus or The Legend of Luther Strode. Play games with fun characters like in Resident Evil 4 and enjoy movies where the people involved actually care about the legacy they're building on. And the reason why nobody likes woke characters is because they are not written as people first, but as checklists for idiots who only see people for their skin color or sexual identity. And in the words of Master Yoda himself,
"That is why you fail."
Very, very, very good. Check out this guy's channel. It looks to be very, very good. I like to ingest some of this, but I also like to back out of it from time to time, because otherwise you start to get this feeling that it's all just going wrong and everybody's just kind of just batshit crazy, and that's not always, that's not necessarily what's going on. You know, but there is a problem in media, and I think we just need to find a middle ground. We need to do better writing interesting characters. Um, you know, and then people aren't going to care. It's not the color of people's skin. It's not their gender or their body mass. It's how interesting is a character. Can I feel some kind of way towards them? Are they written in an interesting way? Do they have flaws? Do they have strengths, weaknesses? Are they going on this journey where they're getting more powerful, or maybe they start off powerful and they're becoming less powerful, they're being broken down. It's interesting dynamics, interesting storytelling. Because what you're creating it's not working. And most people don't enjoy it, and I do wonder as to the rainbow community whether they like it. Of course they want to be represented. I want them to be represented, but I want them to be represented for who they are, and not just who they favor sexually. There's got to be more than that, and that applies to everything. That applies to every person. You've got to be more interesting than just who you're interested in sexually. If that's all there is, and I've seen it. I've seen movies where the character is just like a straight guy or a straight girl, and that's all there was to them. They still weren't interesting. A straight white character, boy or girl, and that's all that's interesting about them. Still no good. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what their skin color is. Doesn't matter what their gender is. They're boring. Just very one-dimensional. I don't think nobody wants that, because that's not what you pay your money to go to the cinema for. You go to the cinema to be invested in a great story with great characters, with that you feel some kind of way about. that you're entertained. That's the thing. People want to be entertained, and a lot of what is being put out there is not entertaining. Or if it is, it's a very small minority of people who are maybe stuck in their own echo chamber. I don't know. But for the majority of people, they're not interested. So that's a video, give me your thoughts, Am I wrong? And I'm okay with that. I'm very happy to have dialogue, because I think that is how that's how we do better as people. We have dialogue, we have conversation. But if all we're doing is just shouting at each other and you're wrong and like, if you don't stand by my points and how I feel, then you're wrong. And no, we're never going to get anywhere. We're never going to do better. And isn't that surely the point? That we do better, be better as people, as human beings, because that's what we are. But we seem to be forgetting that we're stuck in the reeds, and we don't seem to be making any progress forward. If anything, we're going backwards, and that's not good for anybody. That inclusiveness and equality that you all so apparently desperately want, it's not it. That's not it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and a bit of a different one. It's not gaming, although it has connections to gaming and movies. As I've always said, I'm not always going to do just one thing. I like to do different things. I saw Asman talking about this, and I've been seeing a lot of these problems, and that's just my take. And it's only my take. I can be wrong. I'm often wrong. You take from this what you feel is going on. So I shall see you on the next one, and bye for now.